how is Jacob Fry not like emotionally fried, pun intended, from the last 8 years? Shouldn't he want to go away?
How do you know that he's not?
I don't know. I guess so. The two answers could be either he's got like heroic levels of emotional stamina, or he has no conscience and he does not feel. He is a synthetic being.
We're rolling. We're rolling.
This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.
Okay, we're back for part 2. This is the Wedge Live podcast. I'm your host, John Edwards. So the idea of this episode is kind of like a year-end wrap-up episode. We do have our top stories prepared for you. Joining me again is Melody Hoffmann from southwestvoices.news. We've already been at this for 70 minutes. Whatever. So much will have been cut from this episode, but we needed 2 parts to fit it all in. And
I love this. Monthly with Melody.
We're not doing the theme song yet, definitely not. So,
well, I just did.
I don't know if we have the time or the energy for something I have wanted to talk about with you for a while, but it is the decline. I'm calling it the decline of our news media, social media environment. And that's been on my mind a lot post-Trump winning.
Okay.
It's like people are so misinformed. It used to be in this country like we would value things like honesty and kindness and goodness, even if we didn't live up to them. Like it was at least what everyone was aiming for and portraying themselves as, right? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't seem like that matters anymore. You don't even have to try to seem like the honest one, the good one. And I don't know if we're just like, are we not consuming the same stories about our culture? Storytelling is important, and it tells us who we are as people. Like, who do we aspire to be? We get from the stories we tell, right? A lot of times. I just wonder, like, what story are we telling about this country that makes people not care about honesty and integrity and not hurting people? I've been thinking about that a lot. You think about communications. You're a PhD.
My quick answer is that there's been this erosion of not actually caring what the truth is or like what facts are, very simply. And I think that started with, I don't know if it started with, I feel like it happened before Donald Trump, but Donald Trump definitely helped normalize it on like a grand scale, you know? Like literally he says non-facts, things that are not true, and is elected president. So I don't know where you go from there. And so I think that is a huge problem. And that's been going on since like 2015, 2016. So that, we've been dealing with that for years, almost a decade, more than a decade. People who are smarter than me could say, like, trace this back to a much longer than that. But like when people don't even agree on what like facts are, then where do you go? You know? And then I think the other problem, so that's one. And then the second problem is that people are now, and I think this past election really really put a spotlight on this, is that more and more people are getting information from influencers and like podcasts, which, and thankfully, like, you have facts, like there's bias, like you have definitely like a slant
honest
to it.
about my bias. That's the thing. I feel like I've been on the vanguard of this, and Absolutely. I feel like I'm at a loss for where we are.
Right.
I do not understand where we are. At the same time, I have been on the vanguard of like news through social media, and I'm very confused.
Yeah, I think what you do is right. You've been at the forefront of this. You have, but you were like I've every people who listen to this, like I'll stop about you, but like you've been doing this for a long time, and like you do present information, and people are well aware of what your slant is, and if they don't agree with your slant, then they don't listen to you, and that's fine. But you at least present information. Here is a city council meeting. Here is this. Here's that. And more people are tuning in to people like you, influencers, podcasters, whatever. But there are a lot of podcasters that aren't rooted in facts, aren't rooted in like government meetings. So then they're just spewing whatever. Joe Rogan is a great example of that. When I was a professor, there were a lot of my male students who were like, I'm listening to this Joe Rogan guy. And I was like, I didn't know how serious I should have taken that more seriously. I mean, he really is. And God, the stuff that he spews, like literally fantasy stuff, right. You know? And so that's a huge problem. And I think that what you're getting at is like, how do we get people back is like, what is the most nerve-wracking thing to think about.
I'm not saying that our leaders have always been honest, good people, but at least they were trying to present themselves as the honest one, as the good one. Maybe I'm just having a difficult time putting myself in the mind of a Trump voter. Maybe they do see him as just the good, best, most honest, kindest man that has ever lived.
I mean,
only looking to do good things for the country.
John, I know, without revealing the people, there are people, women included, that will say, they do say that. They say, Trump is going to make things better. He's going to bring the country back together. They do think that.
Okay. Well, do you have another one for us?
Well, I'll do my quick list like you did. The 19 bar fire. It might open up on New Year's Eve, but they're not saying for sure. The park board workers strike. That was huge. Speaking of, huge theater closing. Coffee shops unionizing, such as the Starbucks on East Street and Cafe Ceres. Representative Frank Hornstein retiring. And then I put down the city council having major conflicts with the mayor, and it seems to be rooted in a lack of communication between the two parties. And then I put down, this is a whole up. Can I come back next year and talk about encampments?
Yeah. So we were having a conversation about how the story on encampments, you were talking about work you had done on stories about encampments. You had talked to people at the city and the county and had decided there was no story there, even though it's a big problem.
Yeah.
Like the story is like, nobody knows why we can't solve this. Is that the gist of it?
Well, I guess, okay. Here we go.
The story is the lack of a story. There was not enough there for you to do a story.
Because what I did is I wanted to talk to the city and the county and ask them about the public perception of the encampment sweeps, right? So Winter Kiefer at MinPost basically did the story that I was trying to do, which was like, what is the role of the city and the county, right? And the city, if people aren't familiar, the city's role is very like regulatory services. And so it is not legal for encampments to exist in the city. So if they see an encampment, whether you like this or not, they're gonna sweep them because they're not legal. And then the city often says, and then the Hennepin County comes in with their resources, right? So when I went to the city and the county, I said, great, thank you for explaining those rules. But the public perception is that this is not cool. The public sees this and they're not happy with it. Okay, so to say more about the public perception. And I'm just going to tell you. So I talked to the city's regulatory services director Enrique Velázquez, who we all see and he's talked a lot. And so I said, tell me about the public perception. I understand the role of the city is to sweep the encampments because they're not legal. And I've gotten that quote many times every time we would sweep we would cover an encampment sweep. And that was a top story last year. That was one of our top stories. One of my top stories is these encampment sweeps. And all this year, more encampment sweeps. And he said, so I said, public perception, tell me about it. And he goes, yeah, that's a fair question. And basically, encampments aren't safe. They're not safe for the individuals who are there. They're not safe for the communities that are within them. And in our collaboration with Hennepin County, we collectively recognize that the longer encampments stay in place, blah, 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 blah. He just totally ignores, he doesn't talk about the public perception. He just goes into encampments aren't safe, right? That's the line.
Right. So
then I say, okay, let's get more direct. What about the argument I've heard from homelessness advocates that say that when you break up the encampments, that it's hard for them to find people because they scatter. Because I've heard that, yes, people reestablish themselves like a block or two away, but they're not always necessarily the same people, which was a perception of mine that was wrong. So yes, they may reestablish across the street, but it might not be the same people all the time. And he said, he told me I need to go talk to Hennepin County, and David Hewitt would have a better time with the counter argument. So then I talked to the Hennepin County person, David Hewitt, who was also very generous with his time and talked to me. And I said, so let's get into public perception because I think that's where we're stuck. And he goes, well, that crisis is very visible, right? And it's real. And people will see the tents, and that's unbelievable in a community like ours. What they don't see is that last year, all told, all the programs in our community combined moved 2,171 people out of homelessness into housing. The vast majority of people experiencing homelessness will never go near an encampment. Again,
we're doing a lot of work, but it has nothing to do with encampments.
So again,
a lot of the work we're doing is to help people at risk of homelessness who are not ever going to be in an encampment.
Yeah, so I'm like, great. And then just to add another example, Council Vice President Aisha Chugtai and Representative Ilan Omar, they did an office hour, like an open office hour recently. And they did the same thing where they were like, these are all the things we've done. These are all the things we've done for homelessness. And all the comments that came from the audience were like, but great, there's an encampment across the street. I'm worried about the encampment. Great. I don't care. They were basically like, this is great. I don't care. There's like the emotions, like people are very emotional about it. And when I talk to these, I'm not getting the same. That's why I didn't write it. It's like I didn't get any answers.
Right. You're not answering the burning question.
You're not and nobody is. And I know I don't want to say anything about, this has nothing to do with our city council people or representatives. Like I know that they're working very hard. It's just like everybody seems to be tied up in there's some issue going on, right?
Yeah.
Something's going on where nobody can take care of these encampments, but what is happening is that they're getting swept. So that's what happened when I tried to talk with people.
I am finally starting to land on an angle. Like when I think about what question do I need to ask this mayoral candidate about homelessness that will get at an answer that is useful to people. Like I struggle with well, how can I ask this in a way that will
I noticed that when you were talking.
And so I think the question I have landed on is that Mayor Fry, as much as you can say his approach to homelessness has been a failure because the encampments still exist. You sweep an encampment, it moves a block away. Sweep it again, moves a little bit down the road. It's still there, still affecting the neighborhood. People are still concerned. And, occasionally fires get started that spread to a home next door. he can at least say, these aren't safe. I'm the one who will get rid of them. He has a very simple response to that.
But they're not going anywhere.
But what matters is he can go on TV and say, I'm not going to tolerate this. This is not safe. I'm not going to tolerate it. And no one, if anyone was willing to say anything approaching like, I'm not going to tolerate it either, I'm going to make it go away, then we could have a debate about his failure. But because he's the only one saying, I'm not going to tolerate it, I'm going to make it go away, his failures don't matter, because he's telling people what they want to hear is that it's not acceptable. And so I feel like one of the mayoral candidates really needs to grapple with, or all of them, like, what are they going to say that will communicate to people, to voters, that they are the candidate who won't tolerate it, who will fix it, who will make it go away? Because so far it's just Fry who is giving people a convincing answer on that.
Isn't that why none of these people are mayoral candidates, but isn't that why Vice President Chugtai and Councilmember Chavez, and I think Chowdhury is on it too, the outdoor safe spaces ordinance?
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that kind of their response?
I mean, they're looking for solutions to it, no doubt. But like what people are craving is a very simple, like, I'm going to make it go away. Because if you live next to an encampment, it feels like an urgent, I need things to happen in hours, not days, kind of problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I'm calling 911 over this.
Yes, totally.
And I can't wait for you to do an ordinance to legalize people parking in a parking lot. It needs to happen today. I can't go another night with this.
Totally.
So I'm glad we had this conversation.
Me too.
And we didn't push it off. My top story for 2024 is actually about next year. I'm cheating, Melody.
Oh, God.
And it's the vibes heading into 2025. And I know we talked about how I think the mayor has an advantage, a rhetorical advantage on encampments in a way that is kind of perverse considering his failure on encampments. He does have a rhetorical advantage. I'm getting early vibes about 2025 that all of Minneapolis is not going to have an easy time recruiting good, viable candidates. And
why would you say that?
Well, I'm looking at Ward 7 and Ward 12, and I'm not seeing anyone that I think will pose a challenge to either Oreen Chowdhury or Katie Cashman. There is, what's her name? Becca Thompson. We talked a lot about Becca Thompson on a recent episode of this podcast and how kooky and wacky she is. Like, if that's the best they can do, it's still early, but I don't know, potentially bad sign for all of Minneapolis. And the three challengers for the mayor seem stronger than last time, so the tide may be turning.
So. Yeah, and that's no shade to the people who ran in 2021.
Right. There's more of them, and they have higher profiles than previously.
Did I tell you I went to see Minister Dwayne Davis's sermon on Sunday?
I think you mentioned that, yeah.
Act like you didn't know that. Hey,
no.
Did I tell you that I saw that?
You didn't tell me about that. Tell me more.
It was a Christmas sermon or a holiday sermon, and the theme was joy. Do you ever go to church? Are you church? No, he called you out. I love that. He's like, I don't think you're a church. What did he say to you? It was
the
so
church
good.
ain't beanbag. That's another thing. So my nice guy question, I'm afraid I'm going to divert too much, but like I asked him about being a nice guy, and I feel like maybe that was prescient.
What does prescient mean?
Very right to anticipate something.
No, totally. No, the sermon was good. I didn't get any. Well, I will say I talked to some people in the pews, and if people aren't familiar, he is the lead minister at Plymouth Congregation Church, which is, according to the people that are members there, is like a left-leaning, very like practice what you they said like practice what you preach kind of church. They were like the indoor space for the Simpson housing homelessness march that goes around Loring Park every year and into downtown, where they honor the people that have died, who have been homeless in the past or died while homeless. So like they're very like, I don't know what you want to, social justice-y,
Right.
you know. So that's the kind of church that he works out of. I have not interviewed him like you have, but it was kind of, you know, I just wanted to kind of see him in his element. Have you gone to church before? Serious question.
I mean, when I was a small child.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like I feel like a weird, I don't know, I don't go to church either. It was like just like a lo-fi church, nothing no tech, no like, amazing choir, huge organ, like, oh my gosh, but very like traditional, you know, sermon, but really, yeah. But he is super nice. Like, again, in church, same deal, you know. And I saw him at Aliveness when they opened up their pharmacy downstairs and their new clinic. He was there with the mayor, but he was smiling the whole time. He clapped when the mayor, talked. He's very nice. You were totally onto something. I will talk to him about that too. Yeah.
We were talking in a car. We on our other podcast, podcasters riding with cars with Melody.
We should have taped. I should have recorded that.
Mm-hmm. We're talking about how like
Next
this is going to be year 2025 about like discrediting the incumbent. Like you have to do that. Nobody's going to vote for you because you just proved yourself to be awesome. Like you have to discredit Mayor Fry, I think. There's a lot there to discredit if you want to go for it. And so it's not enough to be the nice guy that everybody likes, I don't think. Unless
people are tired of negative, and they will be
in which case you have to run the Minneapolis is in the headlines for the wrong reasons. The same campaign Jacob Fry ran. Can you believe this? In 2017, Jacob Fry's campaign theme was Minneapolis in the headlines for the wrong reasons.
I'm Jacob Fry. We all love what makes this city so special. It's why I'm disgusted Minneapolis is in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Police shootings, intolerance, and inequality.
Feels like the good old days to me. I don't know about you.
Wow. It was a different city then.
Yeah. Do you imagine somebody just taking it to Jacob Fry like he took it to Betsy Hodges? And I think Koski might be that person. I don't know. Definitely, I won't talk about it. I talked about it on the recent episode. So
you can't repeat content.
Yeah. So final thing, Melody, before we go to viewer mail, is how is Jacob Fry not like emotionally fried, pun intended, from the last 8 years? Shouldn't he want to go away?
How do you know that he's not?
I don't know. I guess so. The two answers could be either he's got like heroic levels of emotional stamina, or he has no conscience and he does not feel. He is a synthetic being. He's not real. I just feel like 8 years, even for a council member, 8 years is a lot. 8 years as mayor, when you've had the heavy stuff with policing, George Floyd's murder, getting reelected, and then immediately your police department kills Amir Locke for the thing you said, no-knock warrants that you had banned in the previous year's campaign. A lot of heavy things had happened. Even if you have the sunny outlook about Jacob Fry, he's a good and honorable man. I like him. He's my friend. Things like that. You would think that would affect a person in a very strong way, that they would need to go away for a while. And yet he is coming back for a third term.
R.T. Ryback was in office for 12 years.
That sounds plausible.
He was a very popular mayor.
And the things that we have had happen to us over the last
it's different, very different.
5 years, I don't think compares.
Though I can't speculate on why. These are good questions to ask him, actually.
Jacob Fry. Yeah.
the emotional. I mean, true. I mean, when I, as a white person who is deep in, you know, like puts herself in, especially before I was a reporter, like put myself in racial justice spaces, it's exhausting. And he put himself in that space, you know, when George Floyd was murdered and got the response that he did. It affects you, you know, it really does. So I think that is a good question. I think I'm being on city council, being in any elected space, being in any space where you're dealing with these issues, police chief, police officer, I mean, any of these things where you're dealing with this stuff on a day-to-day basis,
right,
absolutely emotionally impacts you. And to act like it doesn't would be concerning. And so whether people are dealing with that or not is, you know, I think it's hard for us to judge, but I think those are good questions for journalists to ask.
Like, I can imagine being scarred so badly by that I get, like, you get mean. There's a level of meanness that can creep in. I'm not making judgments about Mayor Fry when I say that. Just like when you go through so much abuse, like it can turn you very mean and unfeeling. Like that scar tissue builds up and you just stop feeling things.
Do you mean abuse from your constituents?
Just the pressure, the abuse, like receiving all that vitriol either in public or on social media.
Yeah. And he reads it.
Right. He does it. He does engage on Instagram. We're thinking about you, Mayor Fry. How are you? How are you doing? Are you okay? Do you think it's right for you to run for a third term, or should you take a little break, recharge? These are all good questions. It's time for viewer mail. Melody, are you excited?
Yes, I am.
I asked readers on both Blue Sky and Twitter.
Viewer mail. It's time for viewer mail. Okay, I'm done.
And interesting item here is I got much more feedback on Blue Sky because people actually see what I'm posting on Blue Sky as opposed to Twitter, where apparently it's like flushing it down the toilet. Nobody sees it. The algorithm has decided I'm not worthy.
Or are people just not on Twitter anymore?
I think the algorithm is a little messed up.
Thanks, Elon.
Let's start with Blue Sky. I asked, what are your top local stories of 2024? Comrade Iron says all businesses failed on Hennepin because of construction. Oh, he's being sarcastic.
I told you.
Idaho stop becomes law for bicyclists, which means you can roll through that stop sign, assuming no one is coming from the other direction.
Except on Bryant Avenue, it's becoming there's been some tension between car drivers and bicyclists.
Oh, really? So it's always the case.
I'm just going to leave it at that. We'll see if the viewer mail responds.
Will Stansel did not attend the cat tour, thus losing the primary. Thank you. Thank you for your jokes, comrade. Feeding Our Future, the jury tampering thing with Feeding Our Future, that's a good crazy. One. I don't know if I consider that a local story because that one got so crazy that it felt national to me. That was just wild. The Departure and Return of Lisa Goodman, thank you. We already did that one.
Yep.
Adam says, when the mayor did his asshole comedy routine and joked about cat blankets, we did that one, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I feel like people forgot about that because he brought up something about like loving cats or like cat people recently. And I was like, did everybody forget that he hated on cat people earlier in the year? Like, you all can't forget that. If you're all going to... Anyways.
That jogs my memory. I was honored at the city council meeting.
That's what
for Cat Day, National Cat Day. I was honored. I received an honorary resolution.
That should have been That should have been the top story. Sorry.
That was part of the cat tour blowing up story. Was me receiving that.
Good point.
Resolution.
That's when it jumped the shark.
Sarah on Blue Sky says, lean away from your fear, meaning my fear, of talking about MPS, Minneapolis Public Schools, and get folks on to talk about that scary budget, the lay of the land, and what's potentially coming for the district. The reason I don't, Melody, you can relate. The reason I don't like to talk about Minneapolis Public Schools, if you express the wrong opinion about Minneapolis Public Schools, there's no issue. It's worse than police. If you express the wrong opinion, you are automatically a party to a vast conspiracy. And
I have
not. I promise I'm not.
Comment.
Okay. No comment from Melody. But this is correct. Just bleak situation for the schools. I hope the levy increase that we just passed can straighten things out, help do that. But right.
We can definitely talk about it though.
Okay, another time.
And that is an issue. That is my comment, but otherwise it's no comment.
Serafina on Blue Sky, mass murderer Derek Thompson. So Derek Thompson was the man who was running from police and killed 5 Somali women who were riding in the car on Lake Street. That was a bad one. Several neighborhood associations, this is Caitlin, in the East Bank have merged this year after some contentious back and forth within organizations. Marcy Holmes, Southeast Como, Nicollet Island University, Como, Mid-Century Industrial are now all part of the East Bank Neighborhood Partnership, EBNP. Mouthful. Mara wants to talk about Mayor Fry's vetoes. Yeah, he did a lot of vetoes this year. It's true.
More than any before. And then people would say, but the city council hasn't been as whatever before. So.
Yeah. Lucky Mud on Blue Sky says, I really love the collective joy and wonder so many of us experienced when we could see the aurora in the city.
Oh, that's nice.
Ride sharing battle. It's true. We did have a ride sharing battle.
Yes.
And one of the things in my conversation with Omar Fateh about that senator running for mayor was I confirmed, like, if the city council doesn't do anything on that, there is no leverage at the legislature to actually get it done. So if you think it was good that bill passed and you're like, but the city council did it too hard, they really messed things up. If they didn't do that, if they didn't pass theirs, there have been no leverage at the legislature to get a driver pay up. And I think we all agree that drivers were not paid adequately for their labor. That's it for Blue Sky. Are you ready for the Twitter list, Twitter top stories?
Speaking of Senator Omar Fateh, did you? And speaking of Twitter versus Blue Sky, I looked at his comments on Twitter when he announced his kickoff event versus Blue Sky. Blue Sky, like at first no comments, and then Twitter, it was just like vitriol.
Yeah,
I'm not even gonna say, like, I don't even want to say the stuff out loud.
Yeah,
Twitter.
A lot of people on Twitter seeking negative interactions.
Just ridiculous. I mean, maybe we should say it because I don't want to say it tonight, but it's like, you go back and forth with like, do you say the hatred to like let people know that the hatred exists versus not wanting to repeat the horrible things, know? But it's like, whoa, bro. Like, you really, wow. Okay. I live in a bubble, I live in a bubble where it's like, we're so lucky. Like, we have such a diverse mayoral campaign. We have such a diverse pool of mayoral candidates, if you think about it. Mm-hmm. And then on Twitter, it's like the most racist, vile stuff. Brings you back to reality. Okay. Anyways, what does Twitter have to say?
Election of new council leadership. Yes, this is Jordan on Twitter.
Oh yeah, we kind of brought that up last year. You were that was like one of your top stories. You were very excited about the new progressive city council.
It did change the dynamic, and so the mayor has been talking in these. I mentioned this on a previous episode about how the volume of work that the council is doing, whether it's the number of budget amendments or the number of ordinances they've passed, and kind of like glides past the substance and is just citing the number as if the page count makes it suspect. It's just
Good point.
It's a very right-wing criticism to say, no, too much volume, too many pages, can't read that, too long, did not read. Again, back to Jordan. New dynamics, drama within council and mayor,
Yep.
new police contract, plummeting downtown tower values, impact on taxes.
Yeah.
Very few housing permits, so new construction has gone down. Maybe a product of interest rates and inflation. Warehouse District Live, we didn't talk about that.
Oh, dang.
Buses moving off Nicollet Mall. And
Maybe.
Walls,
Maybe.
maybe moving off Nicollet Mall?
Metro Transit's line is that they're not going to do it unless they have a viable second option.
Good.
The city is very into it, but Metro Transit's line is that it's only if they can get a viable, replaceable. It's the city's project, but I talked to Drew. I looked him in the eye and I asked him.
Good.
And I think people don't freak out. It's okay. That
Play
the
hardball.
Metro Transit is having conversations, but they didn't sign. There's no contract signed. Okay.
They should play hardball and get
I
some
hope
bus
they do.
lanes. Get some bus lanes on Hennepin Avenue, downtown. That's what we need.
I'm showing my cards a little bit, but just so everybody knows, they didn't sign off on anything. There's
Okay.
no official statement from Metro Transit.
Good.
Their line has always been, we will only do it if there's a viable option off of Nicollet Mall. It's not. I just want to make that clear because people are really taking it as if it's a done deal, and it is not.
If Jacob Fry wants this so bad, make him.
He does. The city
make him-
really wants it.
Make him give us some bus lanes on 3rd Ave and Hennepin Ave.
But it's the city's idea. It is not Metro Transit.
Oh, I know. Yeah, this all
Okay.
originates with Lisa Goodman and Michael Rainville hating the bus. Like, how could we revitalize downtown? I know, we could move the buses away and then we wouldn't have those pesky bus riders on Nicollet Mall. It's really where it comes from. Jordan wants to put Wall's VP candidacy on this list. That is not a local story, Jordan. That is a state story.
Yeah.
So
I wish I could make it more local, but
he wants to talk. Jordan also wants to talk about homicides up year to date in Minneapolis when they are down 15% year to date nationwide. It's true, but homicides have been flat in Minneapolis since I think 2021 was the year when it really spiked. But 2020 and 2022 onwards have been like flat at like 85, 83.
you didn't even bring up the robbery spike in your neighborhood.
It's true. I didn't. Yeah. For some reason, robberies in the Wedge Whittier area are just
It's really
through the roof.
it truly, and we're not. I mean, you and I don't really like to talk crime news because whatever. But the data, if you look at the data, it's really significant.
I don't know if it's because we got some robbers in our midst who are like keeping it close to home, or people in other parts of the city coming in and see us as ripe targets for robbery.
Well, I've looked at years past, and I think Whittier often ends up being up there pretty often. I think density is part of it, but it's still though this year is especially.
Yeah, I was just looking at the increase because it's down in a lot of parts of the city, but is up compared to like it's even up compared to the post-pandemic violent crime increase. Like the last year or two, Wedge and Whittier have seen an increase. Don't know what that's about.
Must be the Hennepin Avenue construction.
Jordan also wants to talk about public fighting between County Attorney Mary Moriarty and Chief O'Hara. And that was a thing this year. I guess I'm inclined to take Mary Moriarty's side based on how irritated I am with Chief O'Hara. Turkey murder.
Did it.
Dreams 44 wants to talk about turkey murder, I guess.
Did it. Dreams 44. There you go. Shout out.
I don't know how Dreams 44 predicted your script.
I don't even know who that is.
Big Melody at southwestvoices.news fan. Jason Comics.
I don't know who that is.
Has a top 10 list because Jason doesn't get enough airtime on this podcast. They have to dominate the viewer mail segment. Number 1 is Cabo Gate. Cabo is the dead horse who died as a result, allegedly, of police defunding. Not really. Cabo died a long time ago, well before he got defunded. Katie Jones eats Will Stansel's lunch. That's number 2. Number 3,
Okay.
Jacob Fry's MPD allows armed racist to shoot neighbor. Number 4, open streets face plants after breaking with our streets. Number 5.
I thought about that today.
Did you think about that?
Bring that up. Yeah.
Number 5, tons of amazing new restaurants opening in Minneapolis. Number 6, Hennepin Avenue reconstruction nears completion.
Yep.
We're halfway through. Number 7,
Okay.
Emily Koski positions herself as the anti-Fry. Number
We
8,
talked about that.
We did.
Well, maybe in our car. Oh, wait, do you want me to not comment on this list as you go? You just want me to shut up?
I mean, let's talk. Give me your Koski thoughts.
Well, I remember, again, in podcasting in the car, in the Pressmobile, we were really impressed with Koski's direct statements about Fry's. Like, she just made really direct statements about Fry's work as mayor.
Like really simple, direct attacks, specific, that people need to this needs to come through in a 2-minute TV news segment. Like, the journalist who's putting it together has to be able to package it. Like,
And
make it simple for them, because if you give them a long and winding, like we're at a city council meeting style 2-minute speech that's very nuanced and thoughtful, don't do that. Do what Elliot Payne did recently and say Jacob Fry put 4,000 jobs at risk by vetoing the budget. Not really true, but hit him hard.
Yeah, she's, I think, so far out of all the candidates, had the best direct, specific attacks on the mayor, just from a journalistic standpoint, like in that regard.
Yeah,
Moving on.
You got to make it easy for people. Chet Wedgley found to be in the pocket of Big Orchestra. That is a reference to me accepting a $50 gift card. I was on Nicollet Mall yesterday, and people were coming by, I guess, from the orchestra. Their social media team wanted to get video for Instagram of them giving prizes, and I was one of the lucky prize winners in the right place at the right time.
It's amazing.
And you can find me on the Minnesota Orchestra's Instagram page, I guess. And
Yeehaw.
here's a sad story. Number 9, Taylor's cancer story.
Oh, yeah.
Our thoughts are with you, Taylor, as you courageously fight cancer. You know what I say, Melody? I say F cancer. That's what I say.
Yeah, fuck cancer. Oh, wait, can you not swear on this podcast?
You can. I just didn't want to. Taylor, and I'm sorry. I know you hate that aggressively anti-cancer rhetoric that people use.
Does she?
Often. She does. She has remarked on that. So that's why I wanted to end the episode by saying F cancer, Taylor, just for you.
I'm gonna cure cancer by buying a bunch of pink ribbon things.
Another thing Jason always wants to talk about is Don Samuels. Here's how Jason put it. Don Samuels slowly collapses like a souffle. That's true, but I am so tired of talking about Don Samuels.
Why is he in the news? Why was he in the news?
Maybe you heard.
That's right.
He lost a second time in a row to Ilhan Omar.
That's right.
Well, here we are, Melody, the end of part 2.
Wow, already.
Of our 2024 wrap-up. I hope it made sense to people listening. I hope you stuck through both parts, part 1 and 2.
John, we are nothing but entertaining. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Not really in person, but after I'm done editing, we're going to be so entertaining. I'm going to cut out all the bad parts, all the parts where it dragged, all the parts where I put Melody to sleep.
Oh, it's too bad that you can't edit out the part where my cat Daniel had a fist fight with my other cat at the beginning, but
I will edit that part out too.
Okay.
There'll be rustling, but
that's fine.
We won't embarrass Daniel.
It's fine.
Okay, well, happy holidays, Melody.
Happy holidays to you.
I will see you in 2025.
You will.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for listening, everyone. I'm your host, John Edwards. This has been the Wedge Life Podcast.
This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this.
going on today?
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now, 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 right now.